California. Beautiful Memorial Stadium, 60 years old. We are high atop the Dameron deck. It is a splendid, with a capital S, splendid Saturday afternoon here in November. How much more beautiful can this be? And yes, it is our final game at home, but I'll tell you what, the crowd is out to support it today. The parking lot absolutely full. The tailgaters here in full force. Tailgaters, we're at you. Let me hear you. Honk your horns. Let's get after it. This is the pregame show. I've got Jeff Evans here with me. What a pleasure to have you with you, Jeff. It's been a lot of years we've been doing this together, and whenever we have these 4 o'clock tip-offs, it's my favorite part of the day. We get to come out here with the sun still in full bloom, and you get to see the entire panorama. See what I did there, Jeff? Anyway, a beautiful afternoon of football. 4 o'clock kickoff. The Bakersfield College Renegades hosting the Lancers here from Pasadena College. Jeff, good to have you with us. First of all, Jeff, let's go back not 7 days ago because we had a bye week. Let's go back 14 days ago to the Renegades, and just a tough season overall. We've tried to find our bright spots. We're trying to pick things out, but we were down in Cerritos and played a very good football team. We were in it for a while, but, up against a team that's just so deep. I remember, Jeff, after the game, BC was shaking hands, and Cerritos had players on both sides of the line shaking hands with the Renegades as they went across the football field. There was a Cerritos team on this side and a Cerritos team on this side shaking hands. Either way, take us back 14 nights ago.
Well, they got a lot of players when they've got number one on offense and number one on defense, and this is like 12 or 14 people like that.
Right.
And then I'm trying to watch, okay, then have a guy running back kicks, he's number 2. Is it the number 2 defense or the number 2 offense? But that's the way Cerritos is every year. They always have about 90, 100 guys, and Bakersfield College starts with about 120, 110 in August, but by the time you get to opening day, after those double days and there's 105, 110 in Bakersfield, it chases away, even though most of these guys are from here, but it still does have a tendency to kind of chase you away. And but as far as last week or 2 weeks ago, Cerritos, really, I thought they were the best team in this league this year that I've seen. Now, I haven't seen Ventura. Bakersfield will wind up the season next week against those guys who have an incredibly high-powered offensive team. But Cerritos, I thought, top to bottom, offense, defense, was the best team. They have the best quarterback in the league. He threw well last week or 2 weeks ago, and they have a good running game. And Bakersfield really this year just doesn't really match up when you get to the top level teams in this conference, in this league. And when I say conference, I'm talking about the other leagues like Riverside and Long Beach and Golden Valley or Golden West, and then you're dealing with then of course the teams in the top for this league, which is Canyons. And Bakersfield was in the game with those guys, but then Cerritos, it was 28-0, and it was. When you don't score, that maybe says about as much as anything.
Speaking with Jeff Evans, pregame show here for the Bakersfield College Renegade football team. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon. We are hosting the Lancers of Pasadena as we see them jog up the road there, Jeff. You brought up an interesting point. You talked a little bit about the different conferences here. You and I were talking before we went on the air downstairs about a very interesting topic, and I want to make sure all of our listeners know, all of our faithful listeners know here, this is just banter between Jeff and I going back and forth, but these cyclical 2-year cycles of changing the rotations of the schedules with the Renegades and how we've been doing over the last 2 years, Jeff, any chance that we're going to be moved around a bit? Well, again, this is complete conjecture.
Yeah, this is conjecture. This won't really be decided until probably a little later on after the first of the year. But every 2 years, with the way this thing works, Bakersfield last year played the exact same schedule they're playing this year. Just last year, the games that were home or away this year. Last year away or home this year. So that's the way this goes in 2-year cycles. So Riverside, they played Riverside down there and they played here. So this year, after Bakersfield's going, they're 1-7 right now. Last year they were 7-4, but they had a struggle early. They were 0-4 against the other leagues. And then the year before last, they really struggled. They had a 4-6 season and really kind of struggled there. So the question is, when they put these teams together, Bakersfield has been so strong, and again, 2012 they were the state champions. The state took it away, but the bottom line is they had one of those great years, 11-2 season. And so who you played? Then you got Mount Sac, you got Saddleback, you've got Fullerton, you got Long Beach. These are the cream of the crop of the South football teams.
Of the state.
Well, we're just talking south here. Because
Right, but to make your point, the state, these are great teams.
So now, okay, now Bakersfield's limping home at 1-7. You know, they could be 1-9. They could be 2-8. I mean, who knows what's going to happen at the end of the year? And then you got to start looking at the other teams around and said, now are they going to are they going to move a few guys up from the American Conference is considered the weaker conference. And are they going to move a couple teams up there and maybe drop some national conference people down? They will not drop Bakersfield down. Bakersfield's going to stay national conference. They're going to stay national Northern League. But will the non-league games next year be against teams instead of Riverside, instead of Long Beach, instead of Golden West? Is it going to be LA Harbor?
All right.
Is it going to be, maybe a team like Chaffee? They're 5-3. They played Citrus this year. Bakersfield should have not lost that game.
Santa Ana.
LA Harbor's 0-9 last year, or 0-9 this year. They were 1-9 last year. Maybe they're going to move down to the American Conference. And then there's a Victor Valley, which plays in the American Conference, 7-1 this year, 10-0 last year. Maybe they get moved up to the National Conference because they want to they've proven that they're too strong for the weaker leagues, and they move them up. So will the state move up, maybe 3 or 4 people up, 3 or 4 people down? Bakersfield won't move down. Now, if they had a 1-9 year next year and a 1-9 year the following year, then maybe you start thinking, I don't think Bakersfield wants to go down. They want to play in the stronger league because their goal every year is to make the state playoffs and to win their league. But if you start getting 3, 4, 5 years in a row like they've had this year, again, this is just strictly conjecture. Bakersfield would probably need to sign off on moving, and they're not going to want to move. But the big question is, will they not play Riverside next year, not play Mount Sec next year? Will they play people like Orange Coast, a 3-7 team this year that's in the National Central Division, or El Camino, who's been a long-time opponent of Bakersfield, 3-5 this year, 3-7 last year. Maybe those are the teams they're going to wind up on Bakersfield's schedule next year, rather than these juggernauts that they've played the last couple of years.
So in essence, we won't come into league at 1-4, 0-5, where we could come in maybe 4-1 and have some legs under us as we come into league.
Well, again, there's no guarantee what record anybody will have, but let's put it this way: I would like their chances against a team that's 3-7 every year than a team that's 10-0 every year.
Absolutely. That is the voice of Jeff Evans. When we come back, we're going to hear the voice of the other Jeff, head coach Jeff Chudy, and then this Jeff and I will kind of talk about this game, the X's and O's of Pasadena and Bakersfield College. You are listening to Bakersfield College football on ESPN 1230 and the new 98.1. Back in a moment right after this.